Alex Lopes, Vitor Fernandes and Márcio Moreira, 3 Guarani and Kaiowá indigenous men, assassinated between May and June 2022 in Mato Grosso do Sul, victims of violence perpetrated by ranchers and by the state itself through vicious police brutality. Very lands that traditionally belonged to them and were stolen from their people are now steeped in their blood. The Guarani and Kaiowá indigenous reserves in Mato Grosso do Sul have been the scenes of serious rights violations. At the beginning of the 20th century, 8 indigenous reserves were created by the Indian Protection Service in the southern region of Mato Grosso do Sul to confine the indigenous people who used to occupy the entire region and free up their territories for colonization. But even these lands have been stolen and their peoples repeatedly violated. The Guapo'y indigenous land, for example, where Alex lived, is one of 8 such lands created by the Indian Protection Service. According to the National Indian Foundation's cartographic database, the original project established reserves of 3,600 hectares. Today, only 1,777 remain. Within these reserves, indigenous families live on top of each other, without sufficient space to plant crops or access drinking water, in conditions of extreme poverty and food insecurity. The struggles of these people to repossess their territories are motivated by serious delays on the part of the Brazilian state in demarcating the lands, which the indigenous have been demanding for decades.
E aquele rapaz que mora ali com caminhoneta com carroceria madeira, aqueles lá não tem dó. Se eles veem os índios daqui, eles não tem dó não. Ele pega a arma e mostra mesmo pra você. E se você tiver medo, se você gritar, erguer alguma palavra com ele, ele já mostra, ele já fala mesmo. Se você falar mais uma vez, a gente atira em você.
The deaths of Alex, Vitor and Márcio arose from Guarani and Kaiowá struggles to recover their traditional territories.
Nós, povo Guarani e Kaiowá, nós temos sido perseguidos. Hoje nós estamos sendo perseguidos pela milícia institucionalizada, onde vem a tropa de choque, vem atacar nossas aldeias, queimar nossas poucos pertences que temos, atirar em nossas crianças, nossos jovens, nas mulheres, nos homens, nos idosos, onde nossas coisas, nosso maracá, nosso tatuá, nosso canto, a nossa dança, a nossa pintura, nossa vestimenta é endemonizado.
In order to demonstrate solidarity and reassert their ecumenical commitment to denouncing rights violations, the ACT Brazil Ecumenical Forum, with organizational support from the Ecumenical Coordination of Service, the Ecumenical Centre for Biblical Studies, and the Indigenous Missionary Council, set out on an ecumenical caravan in solidarity with the Guarani and Kaiowá people. Participants included representatives from the churches that constitute CESE, the National Council of Christian Churches in Brazil, and the National Human Rights Council and Coalition.
Nós não podemos silenciar. Se fomos batizados com sangue e a vontade de Cristo, esse que não morreu atropelado de camelo, não podemos ficar sentados e assistindo mais gente, mais aliados, mais companheiros e companheiras morrendo.
The caravan set out from Campo Grande with a celebratory rite of welcome and moved on to the repossessed lands in Japorá, Guapo'y and Araquitué. What we saw and heard in our visits to these communities caused us a profound indignation. As well as lives cut short, young people and children are shot at. Children are prevented from going to school because they are living in the repossessed area. Teachers are threatened if they want to visit them. Health services are deliberately denied. Women of all ages are threatened with rape. And yet, despite everything, we could feel the strength and hope of the Guarani and Kaiowá, even in areas marked by such tragedy. As a concrete gesture, the caravan took food donations to the communities, demonstrated their unconditional support for the Guarani and Kaiowá, and undertook to denounce at national and international level the Brazilian government's neglect of original peoples' territories, the dismantling of indigenous and socio-environmental policies, the persecution of the leaders of indigenous people and traditional communities, and all the racism and violence perpetrated in these communities against women, children, young people, adolescents, and the elderly. The caravan came to an end with an act in a public square in which the communities denounced the persecution and violence they have suffered. There was also an interreligious celebration in which, as well as speaking out, Christian leaders were blessed by the Guarani and Kaiowá, Nandesi and Nanduru, titles given to male and female leaders of religious knowledge and ritual practices, in a touching testimony of respect and interreligious dialogue.
E nós estamos aqui para, juntos e juntas, fazermos coro e dizermos basta de sangue regando esta terra. Nós queremos vida e vida em dignidade. Nós queremos vida e vida em abundância.
Faith-based organizations who work in the defense of human rights stand with the Guarani and Kaiowá in their fight, demanding justice and the immediate demarcation of their lands.